Hello everyone, it's Lisa here, putting together the very last lecture video for the class. So basically this is week 13 and we're heading into the home stretch. And this is the very last video, and can we all say woohoo? Man, these videos have been a lot of work, but I've learned a lot, and I hope that they've been helpful in this class. So let's get started. I want to keep this as short as possible. So I'm going to review with you your last set of activities. This is week 13. Next week you'll be turning in your final websites. So this week I'd like to have you upload your sites to an FTP server and start to look at your pages in various browsers, as well as check your linking and make sure everything's looking a-okay on the web. So let's go ahead and jump in to week 13 here. Okay, so you should have received an email from me that had information about how to log into the FTP site. And on that information, it should say IMED 1416 Web Design FTP login information. I sent out an email to everybody on Sunday, and hopefully you got that. If you didn't get the email, you'll need to email me and ask again for me to resend that, because you will need that information in order to complete the this week's activities. Okay, so what I've suggested here that you do is that you get that information and you proceed to set up your Dreamweaver sites to FTP your files up to the remote server. So just real quick, to give you just a briefing of what you're going to do here. All this time up till now, you've been working locally on your hard drives. Well, your hard drives locally are not broadcast on the internet. So, as you know, most web pages are accessible from anywhere in the world. So, in order to make your web pages available to the world, you have to upload your website pages to a remote server. And traditionally, when you get into doing this as a profession, one of the discussions you'll have with your clients early on in the development process is how to host their site and what host name or domain name they're going to want for their site. And that's basically what the name of a website is called. When a client comes up with a domain or a name for their site, it's generally called a domain name. So just to give you an example here, I'll bring up my personal site, which I've been working on for this class. So I have my own personal business that's called Neo Studios. So I've registered a domain name, and again, this is my domain name up here, named Neo Studios. And if you go to Neo Studios and go ahead and hit enter here, voila, you'll see my new web page that I've been working on in this class. And I've got a little bit different stuff going on here, so I'm not going to use this as an example, but I just want you to know that in order to make your clients' web pages broadcast on the internet, the first thing you need to do is have a conversation with them about what domain name they want. And in my case, I wanted the domain name neostudios.com. Then you have to locate a service, such as in this case, I'm using registar.com. A popular one today is like GoDaddy. I'm using registar.com. So basically this is a domain name registration site, and what you'd have to do is come over here and type in the name of your client's domain, which is what I'm typing in here, and it will tell you that whether or not that domain name is available. And in this case, it says when I type in neostudios.com that it's unavailable because I already own it. So you can type in, you know, if you want to type in your first and last name, like for instance, I also own the domain name lisagabriel.com. So if you type that in, you'll also see that's not available either. And so I have 2 domains already registered to my name. And that's one thing. Once you buy or register a domain to your name, register a domain name, you have to pay a fee to register that domain name for a period of time. And I have to pay either annually or every 2 years for these 2 domains. And it's not very expensive. You can look at the information on here under registrar.com. You can go to GoDaddy.com. That might be a popular one you've heard of. And type in a domain name you'd like to register and see if it's available. And if it is available, you can check on prices there. That's one thing. The domain name is one thing. That's the URL that comes up in the URL bar. The other thing is hosting space. So basically, this remote server that I spoke about a few minutes ago needs to have space on the internet, almost like a cloud, but it's open public space where you would post up web pages and those web pages would become available to the world. So in addition to registrar.com, I also have hosting space that I've purchased through another vendor that allows me to have like a hard drive on the internet that I can upload pages to. And that is what I've used to create individual FTP sites for you guys. So I've used my own personal hosting space, and I've sectioned off a tiny little space for each one of you, and I've given you a personal FTP site. So that is what you're going to use today for this week's activities. So let's go back to here. So basically the login information that I sent you in an email is logging into my personal space. And that's why we're going to use the NEA Studios domain name as part of that information. So I mentioned here that once you get your pages uploaded to the FTP and they are viewing properly, you're going to go about viewing these pages in multiple browsers and on several platforms. My recommendation is the Mac and PC platforms. You may have to come into the labs here to check it on the Macintosh if you don't have access to a Mac or PC. We don't really have PCs in our department, so you might have to go over to maybe the student resources on campus to check it on a PC. But I would like for you to click this link here in the activities. I actually have it up here, and there's a list of browsers here that are recommended that you check your web pages in just to make sure that they're viewing properly. Okay? So spend some time doing that. It is important that your web pages are viewable and working in all the browsers because you don't know what browser your clients or your viewers are going to be using. Okay, so after you've gotten that finished and you've got your pages up, then you will take the URL where your pages are residing on the remote server and you will paste that URL inside of a web post inside a discussion thread, and it'll be available to the entire class, and they can go look at your web pages and do a critique. So basically that's what I'm going to review with you today is that. And it gives you the critique procedures here. When you critique someone's work, you need to look at the work objectively, and you need to look at it from a perspective of what is working inside the site. So basically I'm going over these 3 points here. What is not working on the site, what is confusing or difficult for you to figure out, and make some suggestions about how it can be improved so the student can improve their work for next week when they turn in the final. Make sure you label your critiques, critique 1 and 2, so that I know that you've completed both. Okay, so let's go ahead then and let's go through the process of setting up an FTP in Dreamweaver. And I think what I will do here is actually make a second video so that this video isn't too long. So I'm going to go through the procedures for creating an FTP in the next video.